Okay, so now what I want to do is just kind of briefly go through the discussion post rubric so that if you have any questions about anything or if you see any irregularities in the discussion requirements, you can let me know. Okay, so on D2L, this information is included in your addendums, but I will also post this separately so that just at a glance you can have access to it. But just like various rubrics, on the left-hand side here notes the grade. So if you're seeking an A, these are the kinds of guidelines you want to make sure that you're meeting and satisfying. And you'll also note that these are the points allotted. So if you are looking to make an A, and for this particular discussion it's a 15-point grade, then you want to strive for a 13.5 to 15 in terms of the points that you receive, right? Out of 20, this is the range. If it's a 30-point discussion, you'll want to get between a 27 and 30. And then out of 50, you want to get a 45 to 50 points for that. For the category, it's just kind of broken down into some general information. So the content, you want to make sure you're satisfying the expectations in the content area. So you're adhering to the prompt. If there are multiple questions asked, you are addressing all of those. You're not just hitting on that first question without going through every single bit that's required. Your ideas are generally well structured, right? Everything is organized. If research is required for this particular post, you're incorporating quotes clearly and you're giving credit to the original author. And you can always double check the MLA portion of the content area where there are links and examples, but I'll also walk through some of that if I require it of you. And so that's format, and then, or I'm sorry, we're moving to format, and then you're meeting the minimum length requirement. So generally we want to strive for paragraphs that are about 4 to 5 sentences. I'm not going to go through and count your sentences, but I can see pretty clearly when paragraphs are developed pretty well. If research is required, that's going to push up to about 5 to 7 just because you're including a quote and you should always explain the relevance or the importance of every quote. So that adds a couple of sentences there. The UGG stuff. This is where it's just, you know, I hate to include it, but we have to, right? These are the guidelines that we work with in English classes. The work reflects that you've proofread and self-edited your work. It's not just information thrown up on the screen or in the discussion post area. That's again while I really encourage you to formulate your posts and responses in Microsoft Word. Take advantage of the grammar and the spelling checks there, and you can edit, but it also gives you a chance to save your work. Remember that D2L can be kind of clunky and not work very well. I don't want your work to be lost and then you have to start over. So saving everything in Microsoft Word, and then you can just copy and paste in the discussion area, right? The text box that's in the discussion post. You're free of any of those surface level issues, run-on sentences, comma splices. I'm not worried so much about those, but if you have run-ons and fragments, it can make it very hard to follow your ideas, so just double check for those kinds of things. There are very few grammatical issues if you're striving for an A. And then if responses are required, you have 2 thoughtful, well-organized responses that are generally a paragraph long, right? And it shows that you have read the initial person, your colleague's post, thought about it, and are responding thoughtfully, right? So it's generally the same for other grades. So if you're striving for a B, here's the point breakdown for those grades. And it's just as we move down the grades, there's a little bit less and less adherence to these kinds of expectations and requirements. So we really should be striving for A's and B's in our class. Once we get down into the C's, we're just kind of moving away from following the guidelines or following the prompt. In the D area, the prompt isn't really followed. It's just something kind of thrown up there. And then an F is just not following generally any of the guidelines. So let's stay away from those areas. And in the A to B range. Again, our first week especially, I'm going to grade with all of the current circumstances in mind. I'm not looking for perfection, but I am looking for thoughtful responses that have been edited, but we're slowly going to increase the points allotted for each of these discussion posts as you get a little bit more used to things. So the first week we're kind of trial and error at this point. But if you have any questions about these requirements or any of the information included in the rubric, let me know either during my office hours, 12 to 1:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or you can set up a separate time to meet with me on instant messages, or we can set up something like a Zoom meeting or a phone call, whatever's going to work for you. So good luck, and as always, just let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Hang in there.